2016 webinar finale. I hope everybody is having a great week. I hope that you have done a little bit better than me on shopping, as I have 0 gifts bought and will be doing all of that tomorrow, I'm sure, in just the craziness of the holiday shopping season. So today we thought it would be kind of cool just to talk about the top 10 takeaways for chapter-based associations. I think that not only did we learn, but we learned from you and have just had an incredible year getting to know so many of you CRPs and understanding the gaps that exist in either education or perhaps just in general help to make you guys successful. Ultimately, like we always say, making an impact for the members that you serve. So we're going to get started right here. Why are we doing this? Because we believe there's a better way for people like you. I see a lot of familiar faces in here, and it's been awesome to get to know you guys this year. Like I said earlier, my name is Kyle Bazzi. I'm the Director of Growth here at Bill Highway. And Bill Highway is a technology company that serves the CRPs of the nonprofit world. So number one that we learned this year was to define reality. And this goes for a lot of things, and you're going to see some fantastic holiday gifts here that we put together for you from our graphic designer page. But defining reality is a big concept that we talked about this year. So where are you at in your current situation? You know, we talked about the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, the how. You know, making sure we're painting a picture for both your senior leadership, but also your chapter leaders to get something done. Identifying red flags, doing that early and often, and then how do we come up with a plan? So we educated on a lot of topics, from joint membership to monthly auto renewals and perpetual membership to chapter ROI and chapter dashboards this year. But the goal of all of this is how do we actually get some applications to this education and help you guys move forward. Number 2, know what matters. One of the big concepts that we talked about this year, and I think is we're going to be evolving in 2017, is how do we help align your organization? How do we help take what your strategic objectives are at national or HQ? How do we understand and learn from the chapter leaders to better understand what they're trying to get accomplished? You know, in identifying that overlap. So just taking a survey and knowing what matters, I think that's key if you don't understand that right now to figure that out. From that, we're going to, you know, like we talked about, grab that overlap, understand what we can get done with the chapter leaders, and define our goals as CRPs. So that way we are, again, communicating that both up and down, right? But now that's where our goals lies on that overlap, and defining what that success looks like. And then the Peter Drucker quote that we've used in several webinars is, what gets measured gets done. So tracking and measuring the data to those goals and plans that we come up with. So knowing what matters is the first step to that. And then identifying key people. So not every chapter leader is created the same. And the people inside your organization, and I see people on the webinar here today, that you have challenges between even your senior leadership and maybe your board. And just getting a decision made in HQ is tough to do. So identifying key people and work through those people. And as always, just because you launch something doesn't mean it's working. We need to go back and we need to reevaluate. Start small. This is probably, if I had to say, my favorite for the year. It was start small. The KISS method, right? Keep it simple, silly. If you try to bite off a huge chunk of a project, or even if you're launching an entire project to all the chapters at once, there's often the pitchforks and torches that come out because you didn't work out the kinks for the entire group. Rather, start small, and you know, you want to work with the ones that get it on those key people. So identifying 2 to 3 goals to start. I've seen some projects where there's 11 or 12 or just an insane amount of metrics and goals they're trying to hit. If you're trying to measure that many goals and setting that many goals for a single project, you're going to be being pulled in so many different directions. You want to try to keep it as simple as possible. Pilot and test. never go live with an entire project to the group as a whole. Identify those early adopters, create a pilot around that, and kind of outline what does a pilot look like, because you can phase in different functionality later down the line. And then don't fear failure. And I know this one is way easier said than done, but when you start small, you just are trying to move as fast as possible to get to the end result. So there's going to be failure and bumps in the road. So set those expectations and don't fear what could happen. Get in a good cadence of being one of those doers. And then where's that low-hanging fruit? So one of the things we learned this year was there are a lot of, so you might want to, as a CRP, or maybe your HQ wants you to do a certain thing, right? Maybe that's, you're in charge of growing membership by XYZ, or increasing sponsorship revenue from your chapters by a certain amount. But there's often this low-hanging fruit when you research and identify with them, what they currently need at the chapter leader level. So is there any low-hanging fruit out there that you can get some small wins, right? Get some small wins and let that build up on itself. And then one thing that we preach here at Bill Highway is focus on the top 10% and the bottom 10%, okay? So when we think about piloting or we think about uncovering issues, we're looking at the extremes, because the extremes often tell a really good story of the top 10% being best practices and the bottom 10% being what we should absolutely avoid at all costs. All right, lesson number 4 that we learned this year, tell a story. I was actually just having a conversation this morning with one of my colleagues. His name's Kyle also. It's a great name. And we were talking about, had this really great website where this consultant comes in and helps your organization tell a story from the marketing side. I thought it was so fitting for the year we had. And so telling a story starts with collecting the data, right? So understanding where the organization is at from a variety of points, but if you see that data and the analysis, that'll help put a narrative around what's going on. Interpreting the data and putting it to use, right? And so looking at data as our friend, but also making sure that we use it and we use it visually, okay? That's part of telling a story. Is we love pictures. We love stuff like this GIF, right, with the pink bunny Christmas pajamas. The pictures and the visualizations from your data are almost more important than the data itself, because if you can't use it to tell a story and it doesn't resonate with them, the data itself might not help you to the degree you want it to. And then this is what we're going to be working on for you in 2017, and that's learning from other CRPs, component relations professionals. So learning from other CRPs, there's ASEs Collaborate. We see a lot of people do use that, but to limiting degrees. So how can we take that up a notch? How can we help you guys get to conferences, investing in your education there? And then how do we connect CRPs, you guys, to each other? So if there's an example on a really good joint membership program, or an example on how these 3 associations restructured their chapters. I have one of the things I love about working with associations is you guys are so willing to give your time to other associations, and I think that's really powerful. And again, one of the things we're doing next year is we want to become a conduit for you to do that. So as you guys are running projects, one thing we learned is we can be a connector for you guys, and that's worked really well for a lot of CRPs out there this year. So we are excited to continue to do that in 2017. And number 6 on our lessons learned this year is don't be afraid to ask for feedback, okay? No one expects you to have all the answers, especially because it's so ambiguous, the education out there for you guys on these different programs and projects that you're launching. So ask for feedback, right? Whether that's from the project level to other CRPs, or whether that's surveying your chapters and your members. Creating a working group or advisory group, I would circle that one. We were a little surprised on how many associations don't have a working group of chapter leaders. That is an absolute must when it comes to rolling out anything to your chapters. And then follow up, right? And so you ask for feedback and then continue to follow up to make sure you're getting where you need to go, right? Just because you ask somebody for feedback once doesn't mean that that's done. Build a relationship with them, right? That two-way communication. So one of the examples that we used this year a lot and we thought was a great one was the FEI education and networking, right? And Chip does an amazing job of engaging his chapter leaders over at FEI. So learn from that, right? Asking feedback on how that kind of stuff works. Supporting volunteers, lesson learned. Now, this one's tough to me because you guys have a unique challenge, is probably an appropriate way to put it, to engage your senior leadership and the people making decisions at HQ. Because often, unfortunately, you guys can't do it alone. So how do we get the narrative around that the better we support our volunteers, the stronger the association will be as a whole? Reducing the burden on them to do manual tasks they don't want to do. They got involved as a volunteer to make an impact. But there's also a way that they like to make an impact, right? And so the way somebody gets involved as a volunteer, how do we get them to stay a volunteer, especially if they're obviously a good one? So providing tools and templates to support them, unifying systems and providing support. There's a lot of great examples out there of this working really well. And the end result is growth in membership, higher revenue, right? Increased sponsorship, so on and so forth. Investing in the training and professional development of your volunteers. And then a big one that we don't see out there too often is succession planning. So if you know that you have a regular cadence of turnover every year, 2 years for some of your chapter officers, what's the succession plan? And have you rolled out a template for them? Set a cadence. Setting a cadence is so important for the communication to your chapter leaders and also your senior leadership. Now this could mean that you're setting a cadence to regularly share information, right, or data to people inside the organization. Or this could be like your working group, that the last Friday of every month at 3 o'clock is the call-in for all of the chapter leaders on that group, right? So a cadence, same time, same day, to keep that communication going so it turns into a habit for the people that you're trying to lead. Setting a baseline, so important to level set with the people you're trying to lead. And like we said, create that regular check-in meeting. And I want to impress on you, the quantity is less important than the actual cadence of it, okay? Now, quantity is important because if you do it once a year, it's, the cadence is over a several-year period, which might not make as great of an impact. And then put it on their calendar. We talked to a chapter leader again the other day that said, well, I emailed everybody and no one showed up. I think we all know what the issue with that is if you don't have it on their calendar, assume it's not real. So consistency is greater than quality. And then one of the tools we shared this year was, if you Google Traction Level 10 Meetings, the EOS worldwide. EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. So this is a good example, and I'm sure there's a bunch out there, but this is one that we actually do use here at Bill Highway internally, so we're a fan of it. Number 9, the importance of setting expectations. So we know that you guys have issues with bylaws. I would say, to put it lightly. So setting expectations of where do we go from here, looking at redoing the affiliation agreements or changing those bylaws, as hard as they might be to get that change, we know that they are transformational, right? And so if it was easy, it would already be done, but we have good examples out there of people able to do that. And if you're walking into a situation with your chapters where the HQ organization maybe has burned them several times in the past, reset expectations for them. Hey, position yourself as the champion for them inside of HQ, right? Don't pit yourself against them, align yourself with them, and then help reset those expectations. And like we said, create those rules of affiliation. And we've seen CRPs this year go as far as if they don't want to play by the rules, what happens, right? And if a lot of times those expectations just aren't set, and so if they're not set, they are there's no foundation for the relationship with your chapter leaders. So making sure they understand if you don't do X, then Y is going to happen. And so number 10, I think top lesson of the year for us was being aware of the pitfalls, getting educated, constantly learning. This feeds into a lot of the lessons we talked about. But just because another organization launched joint membership does not mean it's right for you. Just because another organization did monthly installments for their member base instead of just the annuals doesn't mean it's right for you, okay? Be careful of the paralysis by analysis. I would say learn things from the industry and then apply them to your organization. Again, the fear of failure. Tough love is always something you hear us talk about. You don't want to tell yourself a story and kid yourself, right? Because the easiest person to lie to it actually is yourself. So making sure that you're asking the hard questions to avoid any complications. And so we thought we'd end this year with the New Year's resolution that I promised to, right? And so as you're writing these down today, promise yourself, hey, just because that's the way it was at the organization or the association, whether you're new or you've been there for a long time, make a resolution that's not the way it's going to be, okay? The fight that you fight can often be exhausting, but it is not for nothing. And I would put some kind of quote that motivates you on your desk so that way when it does get tough, somehow you find a way to get going. So let's make a New Year's resolution to do better for our chapter leaders. All right, everybody, we've had a great 2016 with you. January, we have just a star-studded webinar coming up. This is one of the big topics from you guys about how ACG has aligned global HQ and their chapters. So we're going to be talking to their CEO about how he was able to restructure those relationships, but not only just restructure, but strengthen. And so we're going to talk about lessons learned, the tactics and strategies to set up chapters for success. And Gary, the CEO of ACG, is going to be coming on with us. Just a phenomenal guy. I got to hear him speak at one of the ASE conferences this year and just fell in love with the topic and loved his leadership. So he's an example that you can help tell a story to hopefully the organization that you're at in your senior leadership. As always, we've been getting a lot of these in lately, everyone, is the fact finders. So you bring the challenge and we'll find the answers. It's completely free, so we'll drop the link and send it out to you. Let us know what's going on, and we'll go to bat to find the resources for you, okay? Whether that's a project, whether you're looking for a business case to tell a story to your senior leadership or to your chapters for the benefits that they're going to realize from what you're trying to do, and just overall resources. Click the link, fill it out, let us know. We've been doing a ton of these, and we've been having a lot of fun with it, and it seems to be adding a lot of value, hopefully, to the CRPs that we're doing it for. You'll see a brand new website coming up next year from us, but we still have our knowledge bank up. We're going to be investing a lot into this for you next year, so please keep your feedback coming for us. But that's it. Have a absolutely awesome holiday. Have a great, if you celebrate Christmas, or I think Hanukkah is coming to the end, or already has come to the end, and obviously a great new year. We have had just a blast getting to know you this year, and really are just fulfilled, I think, in 2016 and being able to provide value for you guys, even though we, at the beginning, were complete strangers. I think that's really special, and our teams really loved it. So we're looking forward to it even more in 2017. Hopefully get to meet a lot more of you, and let's see where it takes us. So have a great holiday season, everyone, and we'll see you next year.